Taylor sent me a meme the other day, and it said, my wife will binge watch a serial killer show, drink enough caffeine to kill a horse, and then lay down in bed at night and look at me dead in the eye and say, I don't know why I have anxiety right now.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. The psychological thrillers and serial killer stuff, like that's huge now.
Yeah, it is. It is.
There's a lot to binge watch. Do y'all binge watch any of that?
I did it one time, but then, yeah, it got to be too much, so I stopped.
Did you have nightmares?
Not necessarily nightmares. It just get too anxious, and sometimes I'd have bad dreams. But then I was like, why am I doing this to myself? That's crazy.
Yeah.
So I stopped.
Do you drink a lot of coffee too?
No, I don't like coffee.
What do you like?
Cold soda.
Cold soda, like what kind of soda?
I like it all. That's the problem. I don't like Mountain Dew, but I like any of the colas.
Yeah. Okay. So you like Sierra Mist?
It's okay. I prefer the Diet Coke, Diet Dr. Pepper, Diet Pepsi.
I'm a Diet Dr. Pepper guy, but Diet Coke, that is the drink of choice for many women.
Yeah.
And I think it's a psychological epidemic because I think it's objectively a bad soda.
Diet Coke?
Yeah.
Really?
It has a distinct flavor.
It does. Let's move your mic down a little bit. Kinsman, can you help her out?
Yes, I can.
And maybe, there we go. There we go.
Or do you have a pillow I could sit on?
No. His is down low too. It all depends on how you sit in the chair.
So being a native Paragouldian, I'm a
RC
Dr.
Cola?
Pepper.
Oh.
No, I'm a Dr. Pepper guy.
Do you remember the RC Cola factory was there?
Yeah. Well, RC and Dr. Pepper were all together.
Were they really?
Mm-hmm.
Are they? They're not anymore?
I don't think so. I haven't seen RC in a while, but I haven't been looking for it.
My grandpa used to drink a lot of that stuff.
RC Cola?
Yeah. It wasn't bad. It was kind of interesting, though. I mean, it just kind of tasted like a Diet Coke.
Yeah, they were like spin-offs, in the same way Pepsi's kind of, not a spin-off, but, they try to replicate, add their own little twist.
I've been fond of the Dr. Pepper Zero lately.
Yeah.
It has a better flavor than Diet Dr. Pepper.
When I was a student, RC Cola took over as our vendor.
I remember that.
And you know what we had in the fountains that no one else had in the world? Two things. A&W root beer and Sunkist orange soda.
Really?
Those were two very delicious drinks to have in the cafeteria. But let's talk about TV shows. Did y'all watch Mindhunter?
I did not watch a lot of it. It's on my list to go back and binge.
Okay.
But
like that.
In one of my classes, forensic psychology, we read one of John Douglas's books.
Who's John Douglas?
He is the FBI agent that Mindhunter is based off of.
Okay, and he's keep going.
Actually, he wrote a book called Mindhunter.
I wonder where they got the TV show name.
Who knows? The magic of Hollywood, I guess. So
they're so original.
He also wrote Journey Out of Darkness, and the book we read in forensics class is Killer at the Table. So he and another researcher went around to several dozen notorious killers while they were in prison and just interviewed them, just talked to them.
That's the TV show.
Mm-hmm.
And so, the book follows, or the TV show probably follows the book then?
Yeah, probably a little bit.
I've not seen the TV show, but I've read several of his books back in the day.
Is there an audiobook of that?
I don't know. Because
I think that would probably give me nightmares more than the TV show. But the TV show is tough because the soundtrack is so tough. It's like a scraping, fast whizzing noises that kind of catch you off guard. And I like that.
Nope.
It sets the tone.
I don't think I could handle that.
So does the book start off with him before he's an FBI agent and before he's a profiler, and he's talking to a guy who thinks he's invisible, and he's trying to talk him down, and then he ends up killing himself?
That ends up, I think that's in Journey Out of Darkness or the Mindhunter book, not the Killer at the Table book.
Okay. So that's how Mindhunter starts out.
Yeah.
Yeah. But just to chase a rabbit, did y'all ever see the movie The Butler?
I have not.
No.
Okay. Well, it starts off where it's about the African American who's the butler at the White House for like many generations of presidents. But it starts off with him seeing his father killed right in front of him, and then there was like this big uproar of like that didn't really happen to him, and it's like, well, they had to do that in the movie to let you emotionally connect with how tough of a childhood he had. So anyways, when I saw Mindhunter, I had that same thought, like, I wonder if this is really how it started, because he felt so bad that he couldn't talk the guy off the ledge that he was like, I got to understand what's going on so we can, stop serial killers. Anyways, that's my little side note. So because of that show, anytime I see like Burger King and they shorten it to BK, I immediately think of BTK. Mm-hmm. So who's BTK to you guys?
He's the bind, torture, kill serial killer from Kansas, I believe.
Yep. How many people did he kill, Dr. Provost?
Oh, I don't know. A lot.
Yep. Double digits, Kinsman. Take a guess.
20.
I'm just going to guess 10. I think it's 10.
I'm not really sure. But he's a good example of living a double life. He was a president of his church board.
What denomination? Don't say Baptist.
I'm not sure. I don't think it was Baptist, though.
Okay, that's okay.
You
can still come to school at Williams Baptist University. No BTK killers here.
I think it was more of a mainline denomination.
How could somebody balance that? Like, how on earth would you do that?
That's exactly what a person trying to cover it up would ask.
It's called compartmentalization and denial and cognitive dissonance. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Tell me about cognitive dissonance. What's that?
Well, one of my favorite studies in all of psychology is the 1954 Seeker study by Fessinger and Schachter. They were two psychologists from the University of Minnesota. And in Christmas Eve, 1954, there was this UFO cult in Chicago that the supreme leader of the UFO cult, they called themselves the Seekers. And they had made a prediction. The supreme leader said, hey, the mothership's going to be on top of our apartment building Christmas Eve, 1954, to beam us up. Well, somehow Fessinger and Schachter heard about this, so they went and infiltrated the cult. It's a type of research. It's probably not for the faint of heart, and it's something we would never let our students do. But they did it.
Wink, wink.
They joined the Seeker cult, and they were mainly interested in what happens when the mothership doesn't come. Now, they were operating under the assumption that the mothership wasn't going to come, obviously. It'd be interesting if the mothership did come that day, but it did not.
Now we're seeing them ramp up into this belief. Is that where you're leading?
No, that was just my
okay.
attempt at being funny. Sorry. So
well played.
So they're there on the roof, and the mothership doesn't come. Now they're really interested. What's going to happen? Well, what they found was the supreme leader went back to her room, stayed there for several hours, and the cult members around, I forget how many there were probably about 30 or 40. The cult members around, they some of them just kind of left immediately, what we call now the casual believers. Others compartmentalized and said, okay, well, they didn't come this time, but they're going to come another time. And then that's exactly what the supreme leader came out and said. And Dr. Provost can probably explain more of the psychological aspect of compartmentalization a little bit better than I could.
Well, it's often I think it's a self-protective feature of saving your ego, right? So instead of having to deal with the fact that we were wrong and our entire belief system was wrong, we just create a new alternative for how it works. And so for them, the new alternative was, well, obviously something wasn't right. It wasn't the right time. The mothership couldn't come, but that doesn't mean that they're not coming, and they could still come. So with the serial killer, you would have one side that was killing and one side that was his happy family home, and keep them two completely separate for that, and almost living two lives.
And so would he be like on or off? Like there's no in between?
Not really. Yeah. I went, maybe.
But this isn't, what's it called when you have multiple personalities?
That's completely
No,
different.
this is not
That is-
dissociative identity.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, dissociative identity disorder, or DID, is most often, I think almost exclusively, associated with a severe childhood abuse. So it's a protective feature. As a child, they go somewhere else in their mind, or they become someone else in their mind that offers protective features. And that disappearing of the primary self and then inventing new selves as a result of that. So,
And it's very, very, very rare. Most counselors can go their whole 40 or 50 year career and never see DID.
Yeah.
When you say most counselors, are y'all most counselors? Have y'all ever seen DID?
I've seen it twice.
Oh, didn't see that coming.
I've seen
and
it twice.
while I've not had a client with it, it is higher than when I was in Alaska for a couple of years. It is higher than average up there because in Alaska there is a higher than average, like 8 times higher average, childhood sexual abuse and child abuse, so than the national average. So there were 2 individuals in the clinic I worked in that had that diagnosis.
Oh, wow. Well, now I feel bad for sounding excited that you've seen it twice and you've seen it more, because I'm assuming that it's absolutely heartbreaking situations
Yes.
every time.
Yeah, it
So,
was.
Yeah.
And I'd only been a therapist for about a couple of months.
so did
when
it feel
when saw
premature
him.
to did you almost want to say, is this just me being green and wanting to diagnose this, and yet anybody else would be like, there's no way because you'll never see it?
No, it was real.
Okay.
She switched right in front of me.
Oh, wow.
So it was more like, how do we get the core personality back?
Is there a technique that you learned during school?
Yeah, a lot of grounding. So you just want to make
Okay.
sure you bring them back to the present and remind them that their body is their own. So trying to get, and sometimes that's feel the floor, feel your legs, feel your knees, feel your body. What do you feel? What do you see? Different types of things like that to bring someone back to the present.
In my situation, the alter was acting as a protector, and this was during a psychological evaluation, so I had never met this patient before.
Mm-hmm.
And so I took the approach of, okay, I want to see, and we're just making up names here, I want to help Sally, but I can only help Sally if I could talk to Sally. Can I talk to Sally? And the alter said, okay. And that type of setup is pretty rare with DID, but we continued extensive testing, and by the end of the testing, psychological assessment, we were certain that it was a real dissociative experience.
Do y'all teach the grounding skills because in the undergrad level, or did y'all learn that in graduate school?
That's more grad level stuff, at least in the classes I teach.
I don't teach any classes where we would go over that, so no.
Yeah.
But some of it is grad school or just flying by the seat of your pants.
Yeah.
And we do, because in grad school, you never have a class, okay, if somebody does this, they come in as a 20-year-old woman, then they switch to a 45-year-old man. They don't tell you how to do that, because it's so rare. It's most likely not going to happen to you. So there's never a class that says you do it this way. So like Dr. Provost said, there is a lot of flying by the seat of your pants there. What we do teach in some of my classes with anxiety, we'll just go over basic relaxation techniques. And that's kind of the building blocks for some of these more advanced exercises Dr. Provost was talking about earlier.
So tell me your titles and what you teach here. Go you first, Dr. Provost.
Okay, so my title is Associate Professor of Psychology and Child and Family Studies, Chair of the Psychology and Child and Family Studies Department. That's a lot.
That's one word.
Yeah. So
And then what all do you teach?
I teach, so in the fall, I teach general psychology, neuroscience, adolescent development, What am I forgetting? I teach more than that.
History and systems.
History and systems of psychology, yes. And that's 5. So that's my 5. And then in the spring, I teach, every other year, I teach theories of learning and social psychology on the alternating year, general psychology, positive psychology, adolescent again, and then advanced positive as a second term class. I think that's everything.
What's the most interesting class that you teach? Like for you, like what do you find most interesting?
Neuro is always fun. Neuroscience is always fun because it's about the brain, and I like the brain. I also really enjoy...
Is it like science, boring brain stuff, or is it like your brain works this way and here's why, and it's really crazy?
It's kind of a combination of both, because you have to know the boring stuff to understand the interesting stuff.
Tell me something interesting about our brains.
Our brains.
Let's narrow it down to Kinsman's brain. Let's hear something interesting about Kinsman's brain.
I find it fascinating that, for example, sensation and perception, which Dr. Vowell finds incredibly boring, that light waves...
We talk about that a lot.
...enter into our eye, or sound waves enter into our ear, and then that light wave or that sound wave is changed into a neural impulse. It's called transduction, and that happens either in the retina of the eye or in the cochlea of the ear, and it changes by, especially in the ear, I find it, the moving of little hair cells, and that changes it into a neural impulse that goes into our brain and allows us to understand and hear what we're hearing. And I think that's wonderful.
That is really interesting.
Yeah.
Those are things I just don't ever think about, and you just think about that all the time, don't you?
Not all the time, but it does cross my mind,
Yeah.
especially when I'm teaching it.
Yeah. All right. Take her away, Dr. Vowell. Tell us your title and give us some of your classes.
Well, I am an associate professor in the Department of Psychology and Child and Family Studies.
All right. Very good.
I'm the new guy. I've been here since 2016, but I still call myself the new guy.
Yeah.
Makes it easier.
Who did you come after?
Dr. Gary Gregory
Okay.
retired, and I took his spot.
I took enough classes in sociology to be a sociology minor. I minored in computer science, though. But when I took my first Dr. Gregory class, I fell in love with that subject, and he was such a great teacher. So, good dude. Anyways, keep going.
And we both, one of our major professors here was Dr. Paul Rhodes, and he just retired 2020.
Yes.
So
you went to school here too?
Mm-hmm.
What years were you here?
94 to 98.
Same.
Really?
Same
And you were
as
here
me.
the same years?
We were classmates.
Okay, I didn't know that because I started in 2007, and that's
I started in 2004.
4. Okay, I knew you were here before me. I couldn't remember. It seemed like it wasn't too much before, but and then y'all both got to work with Dr. Rhodes.
Yes.
Have y'all seen the TV show Shrinking?
No.
Okay, so you know how Dr. Rhodes, his first name's Paul, the main therapist who's like a rock star in the TV show Shrinking, his name is Paul Rhodes. And Taylor saw that and she's like, I bet they looked up who's the best psychologist in the world, and that's how they got the name.
Fact.
Yeah,
Yes.
she was being facetious, but also
No,
she was right.
Very
So,
true.
Yes.
Very true. So I teach child development, statistics, which is a class a lot of people dread taking, but it's not that bad once you get kind of into it. Statistics, the way I explain it, is how we mathematically tell the story of our research data. I teach the research class, research design, or we call it experimental psychology here. And that's a real unique part of our program. We require all of our psychology and child and family studies students to complete, or they design, complete, and write up their own original research project that they'll do by themselves with guidance from me during their time here. And many of them get to go on and present that at Southwest Psych Association meeting.
Okay.
We just had 3 go present a couple of weeks ago in Little Rock. So that's pretty neat. The class I really love to teach is abnormal psychology. But I'm a licensed clinical psychologist. I practiced for about 15, 16 years full time before I came here to teach. And that's my favorite class to teach. It's all about mental illness and the treatment of those illnesses.
Are you still practicing?
No, not anymore. I did part-time for a little while
Mm-hmm.
when I first started here, but things have gotten really busy with, since Dr. Rhodes retired,
Sure.
handling the research projects.
Yeah.
And just life got in the way, so I stopped practicing a couple of years back.
Did you you worked a little bit at Arisa in
Mhm.
Paragould?
Yeah.
My wife worked there for a little while too.
Yes.
And did y'all ever get a consult on any cases or anything?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Because back then I was doing mainly psychological assessments, a lot of disability determination, a lot of law enforcement, psychological evaluations too. So,
Was there
a little
anything
bit
that
different.
school didn't prepare you for, like before you started practicing, and then actually once you got into the real world?
Let me think on that a second. I would say the amount of paperwork involved and having to prove to the third party payers, whoever they may be, that you're actually doing what you say you're doing.
Insurance.
Yeah, insurance or whoever's paying you. A lot of my evaluations would come from the federal government, Department of Defense for veteran disability evaluations, or Social Security Department for disability determination evals. So just having to prove to everybody that you're doing what you say you're doing. That was one thing that kind of surprised me.
So my wife went through the program here. She did 2 years at UACCB, got her associates, transferred here, got her bachelor's, and then went a little bit in person and then finished online through Midwestern Seminary. And the whole time she was doing the seminary work, she was scared to death that she wouldn't get clinically licensed because the state of Arkansas seemed to her like it was going to be really hard to get your license in, and was explained to her that it's one of the harder states to get your license in. But then she talked to you, Dr. Vowell, and talked to you, Dr. Provost, and y'all both encouraged her and helped her get in touch with the right people, and gave her a lot of confidence, and she had zero problem.
Right.
It was
That's
almost like they wanted her to be licensed so that she could help in the field because there's such a high demand. And her training was good, not only at Williams, but also in seminary. And but yeah, did y'all have an easy time getting licensed? Were y'all scared like that? Or it seems like it's a lot of education to get where y'all are. I mean, y'all obviously have the even and more advanced degrees.
I'm not licensed.
You're not licensed, but you have your PhD.
Yeah, well, PsyD, so it's a little different. PhD has a lot more research emphasis, and this PsyD is a doctorate in clinical psychology, so the emphasis was on being a clinician. But I always knew and felt that that wasn't my strength. So I was going to grad school because I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up. So I continued to go through grad school as a result of that for many years. It wasn't until I was in my third year of grad school that I actually taught my first class as an adjunct. I was like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
So I never, so I went in at that point knowing I wanted a job in academics. And so once I got that, I stopped pursuing my license.
Where did you do the grad work at?
Wheaton College in Wheaton, Illinois.
Okay. Is that like near Chicago?
Yeah, it's in Chicago.
Oh, it's in Chicago. Okay.
Well, it's in the suburb.
Chicago proper or whatever they call, or
Yeah,
improper.
Chicagoland.
Yeah.
So one of the 6 suburbs that makes up that.
Okay. And then you moved to Alaska?
I did for my pre-doctoral internship.
Okay.
One of my classmates was from Alaska, and he wanted to do his pre-doctoral internship at home, in Alaska. But at that time, there were no sites in Alaska. But if you have 2 candidates and you follow a certain set of rules, you can create your own site. And so he was looking for someone to go with him.
Wow.
And one day at lunch, I said, well, that sounds like fun. And so
Was it?
it was. I went to Alaska for 2 years.
What part of Alaska?
We did time in, we had a project we were working with to kind of fund and pay for the move up there was in Sitka, Alaska, which is one of the islands. But then the majority of the time was spent in Fairbanks, Alaska, which is in the interior, which is where he was from.
Cool.
So So I adjunct at the University of Alaska Fairbanks. So
Were you surrounded by like threatening wildlife at all?
Moose would frequently, I woke up one morning, go out into my car, and there was a moose out there.
Oh wow.
I never saw a bear in town, but I had one cross the road in front of me, the highway in front of me once.
Those are dangerous.
Yeah, I didn't. I stopped, and then I was like, why am I stopping? So I went on my way.
You're supposed to play dead,
Yeah.
whether you're in a car or not. Just
It's just
play dead, yeah.
Yeah. Those were the two big ones, I guess. Yeah.
No wolves or anything?
I didn't see any wolves. No, lots of bald eagles, though.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, they were cool.
Did you ever have like the no nighttime?
Oh, yes.
Was that okay?
Land of the Midnight Sun. So in the summertime, because Fairbanks is only a couple hours from the Arctic Circle, it wouldn't get dark in the summertime. But then the other hard part is in the wintertime, sun would be at maybe from 10 to 2. So if you weren't outside during those hours, you didn't see sunlight either. So
That would be hard.
Yeah.
Because
that was the most challenging.
it gets depressing for me when it gets dark at 5:30 here, So
Yes.
I don't know how I could handle that.
Well,
You should find out.
Yeah.
You should go there right now.
there's a lot of what used to be called seasonal affective disorder. What is the new term?
Well, seasonal affective disorder is still a thing.
Okay, good.
What do the kids call it? That's the question.
They call it the SAD.
Yeah, the Wi-Fi's down.
So yeah, where there's a specific treatment for getting, you can set up what's called a light board and sit in front of it to get a certain amount of wattage and light into your eyes, into your brain to offset that. Other people tan, getting exercise. I used what was called a dawn simulator, which I had a light that I could program to kind of like a lamp, and it would light up my room before my alarm went off, so I wasn't waking up in the dark all the time, because that's what got to me. So there are a number of different things you can do.
Wow. That seems... Okay, I think in terms of movies, and I'm a huge Robin Williams fan. Have y'all seen the movie Insomnia?
I have not.
Okay. He's a bad guy in that movie, but it's about these police officers go up to Alaska to catch a killer, and they're dealing with insomnia because it's never nighttime. And so that's a very vivid scene as one of the officers trying to get rest, and it's just constantly daylight.
Blackout curtains are your friend.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and it's not unusual, I heard people mowing their yard at 2 a.m. because you could.
When you wake up, you got to do it.
Yeah.
And then, so after Alaska, did you come straight to Williams?
I did.
Baptist College?
I did.
Back in the day?
So I was working at a Christian counseling center part-time, and I was teaching part-time, and I was finishing up my dissertation, so I was going to be graduating. And my parents, who were missionaries, were moving back to the States. And I thought,
wow.
It'd be cool to live closer to Mom and Dad.
Can you tell us where they were?
Yeah, they were in the Middle East for many years. So at that point, they were coming home from Jordan.
Oh, wow.
And so I thought, well, it'd be nice to live in the same continent.
Mm-hmm.
So I started looking for positions, teaching positions, and I had contacted Dr. Rhodes and just said, hey, do you know of anything? And at that time, he'd said no. And so I moved on, and I was interviewing at a Trinity International. I think it's a seminary out in Deerfield, Illinois. And I was going through their interview process as a faculty member, and I made it to the second round. And about that time, I got Dr. Rhodes called me, and he's like, hey, we have a position coming at Williams open for another professor, and we want you to apply. And I said, no, okay. So I did. And I came down and I interviewed, and they offered me the job, and I never said yes quicker. So
that's awesome.
I came back here.
And you've been here ever since?
Been here ever since.
And when did you take over the department?
I think it was around 2017.
I make it sound like it was like a hostile
It
takeover.
wasn't.
It was like yeah.
I didn't really want it, but Dr. Rhodes was done with being department chair, and we wanted to make the transition while he was still here so he could help me with it. And so I believe it was about that time Yeah, it was approximately about that time.
Yeah, the way I remember it.
Now,
we
was
were-
I?
I was here.
Did I transition while you were here?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, then that
So,
makes sense.
so the way I remember it, we were sitting in his office talking, and he looks at you and says, "You're going to be department chair."
Yeah.
It was probably a little bit more behind the scenes stuff than that, but that's how I remember it.
Yeah, that's probably how it went.
I can see that playing out in my head
Yeah.
as a movie.
So,
Like it came out of left field. You're going to be department chair. You probably said something really wise, and just like sparked the.
It may have been like, "Are you sure?" So now I frequently remind Denny that that at some point I'm going to be like, "It's your turn."
Passing on the torch
That's right.
in the same way one day.
And I say, no, things are great the way they are.
Yeah, you can stay forever. Can you tell us any wild stories about Dr. Gregory? I mean, I can share a few class moments that were hilarious, but they probably are nothing compared to what y'all can share.
I don't know if I have any wild stories. I was a sociology minor too, so I took his family systems class, and I
That
remember
one was so good.
I remember reading the book "Shot
In
in the Heart."
Oh, I've read that
Yeah,
book 3
with-
times.
with Michael Gilmore.
I really like that book.
It was a great book.
Yeah.
And when I taught family systems, the 1 or 2 times I taught it, we used that book.
Mm-hmm.
It was great. Michael Gilmore was the brother of Gary Gilmore. Am I remembering this right, Bill?
Yeah.
Who?
You
was
know
one
the
of the-
story,
I
Kinsman?
do not.
Okay.
I don't either. I didn't take the class.
Oh, my goodness.
He killed
English
a couple
minor.
of people.
Yep.
In the
He was just a born and raised deviant
Yeah,
because of his
yeah.
family. Like he just had that. He was very rebellious and
But his younger brother turned out pretty decent.
yeah.
Was a writer for the Rolling Stone magazine,
Yep.
and Gary Gilmore committed his crimes right as the Supreme Court was making capital punishment legal
Just
again.
Yeah, and changes to the ways of how you can execute.
So this was in Utah, and so he was found guilty of his murders, and then was convicted, given the death sentence, and then he was the first execution once they made capital punishment legal again. I think was somewhere in the mid 70s, and then
He was shot.
they used firing squad.
Yep, shot in the heart.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And I think, I don't know if this is just me thinking of movies now, but it's they use 6 people or something like that, and one of them's firing a blank, and so you just assume that you're the one firing the blank. So when you're on the death squad, you might be the one who's.
But I remember this last line in the book. They didn't do that with him.
Oh wow!
Everybody had a bullet,
Way to tie that up.
so that was interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, they hated that guy, but it was a really good book.
Mm-hmm.
It was really sad.
Goes into the family
Yeah.
history and family dynamics, and that was Dr. Gregory's main thing.
Yeah.
I had contact with him after I was a student here because he supervised many licensed associate counselors. I was a psychology trainee, so I never was supervised by him, but there was probably a time in Northeast Arkansas that I would say 90% of the counselors practicing had some supervision with Gary Gregory. He was a legend in counseling supervising.
Yeah. So you know how the family systems flowchart works, where it's like, Bill marries Taylor, and they have Eleanor, and and then it's just like a family tree essentially, and it stacks up. And there's a certain method to it where it all makes sense. Well, when it came time for the test over that, I had it backwards. So I had it that there was a divorce, and then this woman married another woman, and they adopted a kid. So I'm writing out the story of how this happened, and it. Anyways, it just, I was like, I guess it's a very progressive test we're taking. And afterwards, I got my test back. I had it all marked up in red. And I walked up and I was like, hey, I am so sorry. I was reading the graph backwards. I promise I know how all this works. He's like, let me look. Oh, holy moly. You should be a book writer. And I was like, thank you. But legitimately, I just had it backwards in my head. I'm not that creative. But he was so funny.
The one thing I remember about Dr. Gregory, he was an avid marble collector. Do you remember
Yes.
this?
Marbles?
Marbles.
Yes.
Like
Okay.
tons of the old.
Like he went to conventions.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
And I saw him probably a couple of years ago, and he still had lots of them. So that's kind of a neat fun fact.
Yeah, I had a jar that I think it was in my dad's marbles that we came across and clearing out stuff. And so I just brought it into the office and he looked at it and pointed out all the old marbles and he was naming them and all that kind of stuff, classifying them. It was pretty funny.
That is wild.
Yeah. You go in his office and he was working. When he'd ever come get me and he'd want to show me something, it was never about school. It was always, he always was looking at weather, the radar, and he wanted me to see something on the radar. Or it was about a marble.
Okay, how often do you think people told him you have lost your marbles?
I don't know.
Do you think he took that like as a different meaning? Because Dr. Foster, you can't say to him, "It's all Greek to me," or he's like, "Oh, okay, you don't understand what you're saying." Greek is very understandable, I wonder if he just probably has a deeper appreciation. But
Probably
of course, I
does.
think of the other Robin Williams movie, Captain Hook, or just it's called Hook, but the lost boy who loses his marbles at the beginning and finds him at the end. Anyways, full circle. Robin Williams, rest in peace. So tell us about your licensing, Dr. Vowell.
Well,
Was it smooth sailing, or was it the ringer and you?
there's always a hiccup somewhere. I don't know anyone that's made it through medical school or a psychology doctorate program or master's programs that haven't had some sort of hiccup. It's just the way life works. So I went to Springfield, Missouri to Forest Institute Professional Psychology and was working on a PsyD degree.
Did you
as
go
well.
right after you left here?
Right after I left here.
Okay.
Yep. Graduated in 98. In August, I was in Springfield.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're working on that. And when you get to your third year, you start looking at internships. I first went the route that was similar to Dr. Provost, where you have to have two people. And we were going to do an internship down in Northwest Arkansas. And we get down there and some things happened with the other person and they weren't able to offer an internship. So I set out a year between finishing my academics and doing a pre-doctoral internship. To get licensed and to get your PsyD or PhD degree in clinical psychology, you have to do a 2,000-hour internship. Most of the time it's paid.
It sounds like a lot, Kinsman, and it is.
Yeah, it's 40 hours a week for 50 weeks. So it's a year. It's a year-long deal.
Basically a job.
Yeah, it's a job.
That's what it sounds like.
You get paid. Most of them are paid, but the way the system works, we use the APEX system, which is very similar to the matching program that MD residencies use. So our process, we started in October applying to sites, and they always tell you get the demographics from the year before. I remember the year I went to the APEX match. The year before that, there were 500 more applicants than there were positions nationwide. So there were 500 people that had to set out because there just wasn't an internship spot for them. It's a nationwide kind of competition. So
That's wild.
and some sites are more competitive than others. So I think I applied to like 25 across the country, and then I interviewed at 11, some in person, some phone, and then you rank the sites that you like the best. And then the sites rank their interviewees, goes into a computer, magic happens.
Was this before ChatGPT?
Yes.
Oh,
wow.
yeah, this was
Okay, wow.
2002.
So right after the computers crashed.
Yeah.
I'm
Yep.
just kidding.
No,
Y2K.
This was 2001, yeah,
Yep.
2001. So magic happens, and then you found out on a Friday, which my classmates and I lovingly called Black Friday. You found out if you were going to get a site, and then you found out the following Monday where you were going to go.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Wow.
And if
And
you
then
didn't
you-
get a site, you went into something called the clearinghouse, where the sites that still have positions open and the people that didn't get a site, they just kind of meet up.
Gotcha.
So I was placed to my number one choice. It was the name's kind of long, but it was the Eastern Kentucky Rural Psychology Predoctoral Internship Program in Hazard, Kentucky.
Another one word
Yep,
thing.
way up in the mountains of southeast Kentucky.
Snake handling country.
Yes,
Was it really?
yeah.
Did you
Yeah,
go to
they're-
a snake handling church ever?
No, they're underground, kind of, because it's illegal. So
Has it been illegal for a
So-
long time?
in Kentucky, it has, yeah.
Oh
for-
wow.
I don't know what that is.
You don't know what snake handling church is?
It's snake handling church?
Yeah.
No.
So in Mark 16, the extended version, which is not in the earliest manuscripts, there's a part where they talk about you can handle poisonous snakes and you can get bitten and you will not die as a Christian. So there's this section of churches, and just pick up wherever you want to if y'all know more than I do. But anyways, there's these churches who handle snakes as like proof that that is true. But ironically, it's illegal because people die from doing this. So they try to chill the snakes out in cold air beforehand to, because they're reptiles and they have cold blood, or they have, yeah.
Yeah, so I never heard of that actually happening while we were there, but I'm sure it did.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I never went to one of those churches.
There's a really good documentary on it. Yeah.
Might have to watch it.
And of course, it's in the campaign where Will Ferrell is campaigning in a church in Kentucky, and he's at a snake handling church and gets bit a couple times and swells up real big. It's really good.
So the town I was in was about 3,000 people. A little town called Hazard in Perry County, Kentucky. And
What a great name.
oh, it was a great name.
Where are the Dukes of Hazzard from?
They're from Georgia.
Okay.
And that's Hazard County. See, I'm a Dukes of Hazzard aficionado.
Are you really?
I was a kid in the 80s. So
Okay.
yeah, I think I had the car and everything when I was little. So that was in Georgia. But while we were living there, one of the actors came through and they made a big deal about it.
Nuh-uh.
He came to the town. Yeah.
When the remake came out, or the movie version, did you watch it, or?
No, I didn't go see that one.
I watched it, but I don't remember anything about it. It was very unimpactful. Interesting fact, Kinsman's never seen a movie before, so that's why I talk about movies all the time. Actually, I made him watch The Secret Life of Walter Mitty with me recently.
That's a good one.
That is a good
Isn't that a great movie?
It is.
It was a good movie.
Yeah.
I've seen like 3 movies in my entire life.
What?
I get
Star
0
Wars.
of Bill movies references.
Star Wars.
I've seen like 1 or 2 of them.
Okay, 4 or 5?
He doesn't. He
Episode
has no
4.
idea what you're
Which
talking
one?
No,
about.
I saw the first one. I know for a fact.
There's been 3
Was
first
there
ones.
a Jar Jar Binks in it, or Darth Vader?
The one that
The one with the power swords. Yeah, the one that had the swords.
the one that Yoda like lifts the ship out of the water.
Okay.
Empire Strikes Back.
That's a good
I've
one.
seen that
That's
one.
kind of like starting in the middle.
Yeah.
Okay, well I have no clue why I watched that one then, but
My other favorites, Lord of the Rings.
okay, I have seen all the Hobbits,
Okay.
and then I started the first Lord of the Rings.
To be fair, there's 3 of those.
Yeah, that's a lot for me.
That is okay. What does Walter Mitty have where he zones out and goes to this dream world where he's, this, archetype, legendary status?
I think he's just really good at using fantasy as a defense mechanism.
Yeah.
Is that common? Do people actually go there in their is that
Sure.
played out in people's real lives? Like,
Do you ever play Anywhere But Here? If I could be anywhere but here, close your eyes, go to a beach.
yeah, okay, but does he have it on a different level? Because people would throw stuff at him and be like, Major Tom, ground control to Major Tom. Does anybody actually zone out that or daydream that deeply where they're in the middle of a conversation and then they're just gone? Or is that just the movie?
It's probably just the movie.
I think
I'm
that's
guessing.
more a movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Because narcolepsy, that's like a false sleep thing, right?
Yeah.
My dad has narcolepsy.
In
No,
the
he
classic,
doesn't.
in the classic sense, it's fall asleep immediately.
Okay, your dad has that and he's a runner?
Well, he's not a runner anymore. So he actually had a brain tumor.
Did not mean to laugh when you said
That's
that.
ba-
I
that's
was
bad.
thinking he ran until the narcolepsy kicked
No.
in during a marathon uphill.
No,
So,
he
anyways.
he had a brain tumor, and then when they did surgery to remove it, that's what gave him narcolepsy, I guess.
Oh,
Yeah.
triggered it? Was it there existing, or did that
It was something the doctor did, as far as I am aware.
okay?
And it was I guess they knew it was a possibility. Obviously, it's more important to get the tumor out. But he actually ran a marathon after that, and that was a big deal. It was in our town's newspaper or something. But he can control when he falls asleep. I think it just kind of makes him extra tired throughout the day.
It can also narcolepsy can also be excessive daytime sleepiness.
Hmm
Oh, okay.
But he can also fall asleep pretty quickly. But
And it affects your rapid eye movement stage of sleep.
there are 4 stages of sleep. So you have light sleep, and then you have a transitional period of sleep in stage 2. And then you have stage 3, which is our deep, deep sleep, where it's really hard to wake someone up. And then from that, we have REM sleep. And you go through all 4 every night throughout the night. So if you've ever fallen asleep and been asleep for like, an hour and a half, 90 minutes, then you wake up and you think, good night's sleep, I feel pretty good. You look at your alarm clock, you're like, oh, I've only been asleep an hour and a half, yay. You go back to sleep. That's your first, you've gone through a stage of sleep, rotation of sleep.
Oh, wow.
And in REM sleep, that's when you dream.
For the most part.
That's when your brain waves through an electroencephalograph, it kind of looks like you're awake.
Mm-hmm.
So would narcolepsy have any, would that be a cause of excessive sleepwalking and stuff? Does that correlate or not? Because my dad sleepwalks a lot.
Sleepwalking actually usually takes place during the deepest time that you're asleep. That is called slow wave sleep. So that stage 3 sleep is generally where you sleepwalk and sleep talk, and it's one of the reasons it's really hard to wake someone up is because they're so deeply asleep during that time. So
that is so wild. I've never heard that before.
Usually in
did
REM
you take
sleep,
Gen Psych with me?
No, I take it with Dr. Rose.
Well, there you go.
because usually in REM
Make sure he
sleep,
listens to this.
in REM sleep, you have muscle paralysis a lot of times. Kind of like that sleep paralysis thing.
That prevents you from moving
So
and
you
acting
can't
out
really
your
move
dreams.
when you're dreaming, yeah.
Well, here's a life hack if you want to start dreaming and you haven't been dreaming in a while, which I don't remember a time where I consistently had dreams.
You always dream. We just don't always remember them.
If you want to dream and remember it, here's the life hack. The night or the sleep aid stuff, the non-habit forming, and I don't know what they mean by that, because I'm definitely addicted to it, because when I don't take it, I'm out of the habit of sleeping all night. And 500 milligrams of magnesium. Those 2 things combined, I have had more like consistent, awesome nights of sleep and I'll wake up remembering my dreams almost every single night. And I love it. I need to get a little journal, like write down what happens. That way I can be like,
That's how
start
Freud
writing those
started.
movies. That's how what did?
How Freud started.
Tell me about Freud.
Well, that
Was
was
he-
his probably most popular book, Interpretation of Dreams. He decided to analyze himself, and to do so, he decided to do that. By
What was
writing
he
down his
right?
dreams.
Was he right about dreams, or is he way off, or what have we learned since?
I would say he was not right about dreams because he said that dreams were kind of a wish fulfillment.
Yes.
So you dream about winning a race because you're unhappy of where you are in your life. And there's really no
He's speaking right to my heart.
There's really no scientific evidence for that.
Okay.
So are you saying dreams don't have any like?
No.
There's no.
What
th-
you're,
you
wait,
shouldn't
wait,
look
so
into
so
them
he's
at all.
right, or you're saying
I'm
no
saying
that
No. Okay. Here's my this is my spiel I give about dreams. I believe that God does there's a purpose to our dreams. God does communicate to people through dreams. That is my belief. He's always done that throughout the Bible, and he does it still today, I believe. And then I also believe that just because of the way our brain works when we process information, sometimes our dreams are meaningless because it's just what's going on in our heads. But that there are dreams that he sends us that have purpose. So it's kind of like, yeah.
And there is no scientific way to interpret a dream.
No.
So as a therapist, occasionally I'd have people come in and say, oh, can we interpret this dream? And I would tell them, well, for me to listen to one of your dreams, which Freud was really into dream interpretation, so he had a lot of stuff.
what were his years of contribution to the psychological community?
Late 1800s, early 1900s.
Okay.
Well, he started in, I think,
So before magnesium and sleep aid is what I'm hearing.
yes.
Okay.
There was opium and cocaine, though.
He is
What about
noted-
Icosa? What's it called? The Amazon drug that is like out of body experience.
Then it makes you as sick as can be. So don't take that.
Have you tried it?
No,
Okay.
but I teach the substance abuse class here, and so it's an hallucinogen.
Okay, so it's in
from
that
a
category of the
It's from
okay.
a plant,
Okay.
and you have some sort of alleged supernatural spiritual experience, and then you throw up everywhere.
Well, here's what gets me when I hear people talk about it is that everybody who has done it in the Amazon or who has gone to the Amazon and done it has a similar out-of-body experience with a similar type of realm with angelic type beings, and like kind of leaves with like a good moral lesson that is just crazy that everybody has the same experience with it.
Keep in mind you're looking at anecdotal and not empirical evidence.
Sure, absolutely.
You're just hearing
Absolutely.
stories and not.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. And these are from big podcasters I listen to who are believers in it. So,
And
bless you.
perhaps they come in with a
Need some water?
preconceived. Perhaps they come in with a preconceived notion of what it's going to be like.
Sure. So if I were to do it, I would have that same experience because I'm assuming that's what it's going to be.
Very likely. Very
Okay.
likely.
Well, let's stop talking about it. That way Kinsman can do it too, and we can both report back since he doesn't know anything about it. So,
Getting back to how I work with people when they would come in and ask me, what does this dream mean? I would just lead them through a process of kind of interpreting the dream themselves.
Yeah.
And that seemed to work really well.
If they find meaning in it, then that's
if they find meaning in it, that's
yeah.
good.
Yeah. I've had some extremely vivid dreams where I've had to do some processing of like, what should I do with that dream? And I'm talking in the past few months. And so it's just been wild. So I'm glad to hear that you have told people to look at it from that angle and do that because I did find that helpful.
I think that's the best way to do it.
Yeah.
Now, there's, growing up in rural Northeast Arkansas, you have a lot of grandma wisdom about dreams.
Sure.
And none of that really holds up to empirical evidence either. So, my granny would always say, well, if you dream something 3 times in a row, it's going to happen. Or you dream about somebody, they might die or whatever. And, there's no evidence to any of those things.
Yeah.
Just stuff grannies say.
Yep.
Have you guys heard of Elon Musk's Neuralink?
Ooh.
The brain chip?
I've heard of it, but I don't know anything about it.
I don't know too much about it, but I know eventually they think they'll be able to like record dreams and stuff with it too, which is kind of crazy to think about.
Well, in a way, they kind of record dreams with EEGs because dreams are essentially just electrical waves in the brain. The brain works through a electrochemical process, and so your brain has positive or negative electrical charge. And when you wear that funny-looking shower cap, if you're getting an electroencephalograph, they put that on your head, and then you have little line tracings called brain waves that come out on the screen. That's essentially the electrical activity in your brain.
But it's not like images.
No.
Not yet, but
They have done some research on the brain, and this was, I don't remember when this was done, a couple of years ago, where they have been able to see what essentially neurons see, or see what the brain sees. And I think. But
yeah, okay. So
I have to do more research.
Well, that was my neuroscience question. Is the way you said that sound waves and light waves come into our eyes and ears and it can input it and give us what we need, but can it shoot it back out? I know. Let's talk about another movie, Dumb and Dumber 2.
I don't understand shooting it back out.
Input, output. You're a bass player, Dr. Vowell. You know how pedals work and
Sure.
input to output. Just every brain is a little guitar pedal, and you send something to it, and it shoots something else out to the next one. And
That's a new area of research, Dr. Provost, for you.
Yeah.
The guitar pedal model of brain.
yeah, in Dumb and Dumber 2, they put that thing on Jeff Daniels, and they start seeing what he's daydreaming about. And so, anyways, they invented this thing, and he's like, "Yeah, it's pretty cool, but I think you still got some work to do." It's like, what I'm talking about.
So, I don't think the technology is there yet. I went to a seminar several years ago, and they were talking about inputting some wires that would go through, maybe start at the shoulder and go up to the brain to stimulate certain parts of the brain. And they were having trouble. The thought was it might help with Parkinson's disease, the tremors particularly that someone gets with that neurological disorder. They were having trouble. The wires were kind of breaking and not really working very well. So now that's been 10, 15 years ago. So the technology is probably way better.
Well, back to the Neuralink. I think they've either had one or two humans test. I don't know, test run or whatever you would call it, but it was a man who's paralyzed, and so he could control like the computer mouse just with the thoughts of his mind, and I think that's as far as
They are
they've
doing
pushed
that.
it,
We do a lab on that in neuroscience.
That's wild.
Where that you can control things with your mind through that interface. So the research is going in that direction, which is amazing.
Is it going in a way where like it could eventually restore mobility to a paralyzed person?
That's the ultimate goal. Or allow them to wear a suit that you could control, like an exoskeleton type suit.
Oh, wow.
That you could then control the exoskeleton suit to give you mobility.
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah. And like that is a good use for that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I
Sure.
think.
And that's probably decades away, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully sooner though. Yep. Y'all, go
Because
ahead.
it's one thing to do that with one person, then try to repeat it over and over again with tens of thousands of
Yeah.
people.
Sure.
So
Sure.
that's why I said
Yeah.
it's probably
Yeah.
decades away.
Yeah.
The fear of some people is that it'll. I don't know. I don't even know how this would work, but that the Neuralink will, give them access to like all information on the internet, and then so whoever has them will just have like a absolute advantage over everyone without them. And I don't know if that is even possible or not, but to have like direct access to the internet and all the databases in your mind. But if that does happen, then I guess that would put them at a pretty big advantage. I don't know.
Well, they say ChatGPT or one of the language models is going to be smarter than the smartest person on Earth within a year, and then smarter than all of us collected together within 5 years. So to have that in your brain, that would be a little advantage.
Yeah.
I would think. You had that and the suit, and you'd be like Iron Man.
Yeah, you'd be unstoppable.
Tony Stark, yeah. That's another movie, Kinsman. You haven't seen, I'm sure.
Who's Iron Man? No.
He's a Jedi Knight from Star Wars. Yeah. Can I ask y'all one last question so we can all get out of here and get to lunch on time? Finals are here, and it seems like anxiety, depression, fear, mental health stuff's on everybody's radar, and perhaps more so in the college generation now than ever. What's a tip to dealing with anxiety during finals, but also dealing with anxiety in general?
Well, my number one tip to survive finals week is a rested brain is a good brain.
A rested brain?
A rested brain,
Okay.
getting plenty of rest is a good brain. Try to avoid, and don't do it, don't pull an all-nighter. Because most of the time you'll fall asleep and miss your final. But don't pull an all-nighter. The cramming you're doing probably isn't going to be super effective, so just keep your normal routine. Study the way you always do, and build in plenty of breaks.
And you would also recommend trying to dream about you acing the final. Is that correct? That would really help your chances of succeeding.
In a movie, that'd be great. And don't take a vacation.
Yeah, that'll get you in trouble for 2 reasons. It's illegal. On top of, it probably wouldn't help. Yeah, you would be out of a body experience. So, what about you, Dr. Provost?
There's a couple of things you can do. You can remember the forgetting curve. You may or may not. So we remember and learn things like a curve. So we tend to remember the most recent thing we learned, and we tend to remember the first thing we learned, but we forget the stuff in the middle, right? So if you've ever had a list to go to Walmart and forgotten your list, you remember what's on the front and top of the list. You remember what's at the bottom of the list, but you forget what's in the middle of the list, right? So when you're studying, mix up the order in which you study your materials. Don't always start with the same notes all the time.
Ooh, I like that.
Mix your notes up. That way everything's getting an opportunity to be the first thing and the last thing that you study. So you have a better chance of remembering everything. The other thing is to study for 30 minutes and then take a 5-10 minute break. Get up, move, walk around, rest your brain, rest your eyes. Do it again. Study in little groups. Do it a little each day, so you're not having to pull that all-nighter. Your odds are better if you get a good night's sleep. You'll remember what you've studied, and because when we sleep, that information continues to be encoded and cemented into our long-term memory, transferred in the long-term memory, and we need that to remember to learn for that. So doing those things. Use mnemonic devices. If you're trying to learn the 12 cranial nerves, take the first letter of each cranial nerve and then put it to make a sentence out of that, and then use that to remember your list of things you're trying to remember. When you feel anxious, take deep breaths. Ground yourself. Remember, okay, this is what I'm doing. This is why I'm studying. Calm yourself down. Calm those nerves down. And then study. Don't study while you're anxious. You're not going to remember anything.
Really?
No.
I did not know that.
Because you get so caught up in the emotion, you're not thinking clearly.
A panicked brain does not work very well.
No.
So that's what we tell our kids all the time. Calm down, then go study. Take a little 10-minute walk.
Watch a movie. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
Take some deep breaths. Maybe watch a short on YouTube if you have to.
Okay. Now we're talking. Now we're talking.
Don't watch a 3-hour Lord of the Rings movie or anything. And then you get back to studying, because with anxiety, you want to try to switch your brain to focusing on something else. And because anxiety can kind of snowball.
Yes. So trying to cut that off. So if you're thinking about something that makes you anxious, try to reroute your brain to think about something else that calms you down. Perhaps it is being in the same relaxed state that you are when you study. Try to put yourself back in that state when you go to take the test. Your brain recalls what you were thinking and feeling and doing when you learned the information. So if you're in that same state when you go to show what you've learned, it's easier to pull up that information at that time too. So if you always have a drink of beverage of choice, your coffee or your Diet Dr. Pepper or what have you when you're studying, if you're able, take that into the test with you. Use the smell to help calm you down. Take a sip to calm you down, and then start panicking. Don't start panicking. Stop panicking.
And put a little cheat sheet inside the liquid.
No.
Because smell is one of the senses that has the strongest memory connections.
It is wild how that works.
Like I said, Grandma's cookies. Start smelling chocolate chip or whatever Grandma used to make.
Yep. Well, Kinsman, do you feel like you're ready for your finals now?
I think so. I honestly think I got some good study tips.
You don't have any finals today.
I do not.
They're all next
thankfully.
week?
Yeah.
You have like a whole weekend to like re-listen to this and master these skills. See, everybody thinks that we do these podcasts for everybody else, but we just do them so we can get smarter.
Honestly.
Yep. We won't even publish this one live probably. It'll just be for us. So. Yeah. Well, just for some more homework for Kinsman, what is your favorite movie and what is the best movie? Like for example, like my favorite movie is Hot Rod, but the best movie I think is Gladiator, the original 2000 version. That helps like explain what the task is here. So,
My favorite movie is a movie called We're No Angels with Humphrey Bogart, and the best movie is original trilogy of the Star Wars or Lord of the Rings. I think they are both. I mean, Star Wars is just classic, and Lord of the Rings is cinematically beautiful.
I love how like what's the best movie? One of these 6.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm totally not answering the question properly.
I think that's perfect because those trilogies, they do fit together.
They're all one.
Yeah.
This one story.
Yep.
So, I like stories.
Yeah.
Well, probably my favorite movie is Episode 6, Star Wars: Return of the Jedi.
Yep.
And then probably the best movie I think is Robin Williams. I really like Dead Poets Society.
Oh yeah, that is such a good one. Yep. I discovered that movie when I was still young enough that I didn't appreciate it the way I do now. And so it's not one of like the core movies of Robin Williams in my mind, but I used to have this little checklist of all of his movies on this Excel sheet. Like I printed off and had in my room, and I'd mark them off as I watched them. I was a huge fan. So.
And Robin Williams, he was very open about his struggles with mental illness.
Yeah, tell us what he had.
Bipolar disorder. And so you can kind of see it in some of his work. The real happy kind of movies were maybe when he was up, and his more serious movies could have been maybe when he was down. And then later in life, he developed a very rare form of dementia known as Lewy body dementia.
And what's that?
How about I'll defer to the neuro expert a little bit on this?
I'm drawing a blank. So.
Okay. Well, it's very rare. It's related to, it's called Lewy body because of how some of the plaques develop in the brain than the certain areas they develop. Mm-hmm. I've never seen it in practice, but yeah. And it causes some bizarre type behaviors.
Yeah, and his official cause of death, was it because of the diagnosis or that disease, or did they rule it as suicide, or
it was ruled as a suicide, I believe. And
that's what I'm thinking too.
But I think I remember seeing something that the risk of suicide may be a little bit higher in people with Lewy body dementia. Not 100% sure on that.
Yeah. I remember at first it was he committed suicide because he had the disease and didn't want it to take its toll on him and lose his mind.
That could have been.
But then like you said, the risk is higher, and so is it really the disease that did it, or his own choice? So sad stuff, gone before his time.
Mm-hmm.
And
very much so.
Yep. Thank y'all so much for joining us. This was super fun.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah,
we enjoyed it.
All right. Well, Kinsman, you got anything you want to add?
I don't think so.
Any bit of psychological analysis or wisdom you want to pass our way?
I gained all that stuff today.
Yeah.
That was good.
Kinsman started this conversation as a business major, and now he's a psychology major. He has joined the 75% of other students, and he's changing majors.
Welcome to the dark side.
Yeah. I wouldn't have changed my major, but like I said, I psychology would have been like my second choice, and minoring in sociology. I love that area. That was so much fun. So thank you for all that you do. And we're super grateful to have you at Williams, and the department's super blessed to have both of you and all the adjuncts that help out. And what y'all do makes a huge difference, and continue moving forward and helping people find their purpose and their fulfill their callings. And I'm assuming that your students are like y'all. Like some come in thinking they're going to go the clinical route, and they end up going the academic route. Some think they're going the academic, and they end up going the social work route, and they just go all kinds of directions. There's so many opportunities.
Absolutely, we have graduates everywhere.
Yeah,
well, a lot of different fields.
Yep. Well, they're some of our best and brightest on campus. So, again, thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.